All right. So now we're getting to understand the whole energy healing world, the frequency stuff, blood types, diseases, deficiencies, the diets, the conspiracy world, and then the new world, old world, climate change, pandemics, RH factors, A and B, O, the vaccines. We're now seeing everything being connected finally, and even biblical stuff in different parts of the world. And that was my strength now is connecting all the dots and not taking a side. It's understanding how the system is managing the frequencies, managing the people who give off certain frequencies, even the programming behind it, the programming behind the 1960s, the family, even serial killers, bullies, religion, politics, science. Why I don't go out there too often. When I did go out there yesterday, I saw proof of how amplified the environment was and is. When my husband was home on and off this week and even last week because of the holidays. And so, he is a highly amplified person. I speculate he is an Rh negative, though I can't prove it, but I know we are opposites, but we have the same blood type. And I know I've been dealing with so much stuff as far as releasing demons because I'm an O blood type, which means I'm a carrier of all the different antibodies of blood type A and B. And so when you're a carrier of antibodies and you host them for such a long time, and they do influence behaviors and belief systems and fears, then the last 7 years, the last 3 years, I have been releasing those demons and dealing with them. And then within the last year, last few months, it is exposure to then the recent blood type A and B antibodies and them holding court inside. I'm hosting them. And then my husband, when I get around him, he activates my immune system, and that's why I get the hives. Not because of him per se, because I could be picking up stuff maybe from him, but also from my environment, from the wind, from going into restaurants, from going into public spaces, and then my body hosts them and my immune system gets activated. And so then when we went to the restaurant yesterday, after me releasing so many demons from the last few weeks, and it was a really intense releasing of those demons because I was again exposed to whatever variant that's out there. We hear about the JN1, and who knows how long it incubated, but I know it was coming out and going through the process because I've been feeling kind of weird the last few weeks. But yesterday, it was a really aggressive one where I felt the heartbeats, the heart palpitations. And then right after that, right after feeling the heart palpitations, I ate my meatloaf and potatoes and just was inhaling that. And then I went to sleep because I had to go to sleep. I had to take a nap and just rest and let the heart palpitations do what it had to do. And then when I woke up, I really had to release those demons. What does that mean? I mean, I had to poop like you would not believe. That's why you see some of the posts about uploads and downloads, because I get all the uploads the last however many years, and then even the recent uploads of information of people giving me stuff as far as microbes. But then also when I download, which is then all the energy that I'm expending, like right now you're experiencing a download from me. And so the download for me yesterday, when I got off the Facebook Live and I went through that process of the heart palpitations and whatever, then it was releasing those demons, and the pooping was incessant. It was just kept going and going. And then I felt amazing. There was no heart palpitations. I felt nothing crazy. And so then, my husband and I were discussing that what we were going to do yesterday in the evening to have a date night. So we did. We went to a restaurant and we were sitting there waiting for the food and all that. And the light that was descended, like it was right over our table. Well, my husband sneezed, and then the light was flickering. It just kept like a strobe light. It was crazy. I'm like, oh my God. And I made that connection because I know my husband is an Rh negative. And Rh negatives are highly amplified, highly energetic. And so, yes, so it strobed light for a minute. And I'm like thinking, am I going to go and talk to the waiter to go and have him take a glove and try to screw that light back in or something? Because it was just it wasn't spontaneous, like out of nowhere. It was after my husband sneezed. And so he holds so much energy, which is why in this environment, this highly activated, like super aggressive environment. He's not feeling what I'm feeling because he is an O negative. I'm really literally, he's O negative and I'm O positive, which means I'm carrying the weight of the world. And so he's able to expend that energy with the RH negative. I hold on to the energy, and then when I'm around the negatives and transformers and even a highly amplified environment, that's when the beasts inside that I'm hosting are moving. That's why those who are really skinny are not leaving themselves room to change their mind. What does that mean? Because when you have more weight to your body, you have the ability to change out the old programming to bring in the new programming. And so you leave yourself open to change your mind. You leave yourself open to convert the energy and to exchange out the old to the new. But those who are really skinny, and usually they're type A and B, they're kind of like stuck and pigeonholed because they'd have to have the extra weight in order to convert. That's why that lady who said she was an A positive turned into an O positive, because she had that much infection. She turned purple. And so I'm thinking like, holy shit, those who are blood type A and B, they were geared for a slower frequency environment. And so maybe there's parts of the world out there where blood type A's and B's can be amazing and be balanced out because the frequencies in the environment are not so aggressive working against them. But right now in America and other places like the West, the blood type A's and B's are being excessively activated to the point where they're being taken down faster because of how much resources they are expending, because of the blood type is working against them, plus everyone around them are like transformers causing high activation. Which is why then in this environment, blood type A's and B's really should be staying home and staying safe and taking inventory in who they surround themselves with. Because if they're surrounding themselves with people who are RH negatives plus then their own same blood types, then they have double, triple, quadruple the activity working against them. They can't get ahead. And that's why you're seeing fast moving cancers. That's why you're seeing people dying suddenly. Let me tell you, go to those died suddenly groups and ask the question, those who have died suddenly, if you even know, what were their blood types? Okay, and that should tell you everything, because again, they're saying that in COVID-19 era, the blood type O's and the positives are actually doing better than the blood type A's and B's, who are highly affected at this point because they don't have enough substance and everything is working against them. And that's pretty freaking crazy. That is pretty freaking crazy. And so I'm just going to go down my timeline here. And right now I posted, it says anybody, because I saw someone write something about anybody feel this, anybody feel that. And I'm like, anybody antibody. And then antibodies can convert to antigen inside or outside the body. So again, whenever you have blood type A and B antibodies inside of you, like a blood type O holds the A and B antibodies, as soon as they sneeze out, they're now turning those antibodies into antigen. It converted that quickly once it left the body. And now it becomes a grenade or a landmine to somebody else who's going to have to go and reconcile with that, what was your antibody to now an antigen to them. And so everything's all relative to perspective and the environment. Everyone and everything is amplified during this climate change. Oh, hell yeah, I freaking feel it. And so, yep, if you're in the J world and you're blood type A or B, your day is coming for some major infection. That's why I was kind of surprised why John hadn't had, the major infection, or he would have said it, and it would have been life-changing. I mean, people have aches and pains, but that's the body conditioning for that major event, which will happen, but we don't know when it's going to occur. And you hope that they have enough to survive it. And so, yeah, your day is coming for some major infection, and I couldn't tell you if you would survive it or even switch blood types, even though it has happened. I just know food, release, and rest, and minimal exposure to people, because you need them to give you the information, but you have to manage the uploads and the downloads and how much you're supporting that energy that you are surrounding yourself with. That's the thing. When you're living next to transformers and huge, radioactive devices, you have to really eat for that exposure. That's why those who are next to big transformers or some kind of electrical system that has a high output, people get cancer and disease because they're not eating for that environment. They don't realize that anything that's highly amplified needs to be supported with food, rest, and release, and maybe even moving away from that specific transformer because it's taxing them. That's why I'm saying even your friends and family could be transformers, highly amplified, high wattage. And so, yeah, so again, that was confirmation that the flickering of the lights when we were at the restaurant, when he sneezed, and then when he came home, I felt my immune system activate as soon as he came home, which then speaks to then, of course, with the last 3 years and the climate change, and then my own body holding on to so much of the past, present, and even future triggers that's why I was going through that whole energy conversion. And that's why I had to stay home more than not, because everything, my husband was already amplifying and triggering everything, but then everyone else out there would too. So you can't really have so much that evolution happen at once. It has to happen in stages. And so that's why they say, really stay home and stay safe so you can manage the uploads and the downloads and support the uploads and downloads properly so you can survive it. And some of the uploads and downloads are going to be really aggressive relative to your blood type. And that's why you have to know what your blood type is and what it actually means when it comes to frequency. And A and B and Rh negatives are high frequency because of that they don't have a lot of substance. So they're really just energy. And then they're also very susceptible. They could be cured, but then here's the thing. If you could be A and then have the offset of the positive, that's where then you're feeling the high frequency, you're fighting against yourself already. So there's a lot of things going on with A's and B's that are positive, but it's the A's and B's and even the O negatives that have a lot, but the O negatives have a bit more of the upside to them because of their O blood type. But it's the A and B negatives that really have to watch out, and the AB negatives. But if you're AB positive, now you have to manage that energy and figure out what you have to do to support yourself when you're working against yourself, and then the energy out there. And at least you have that RH factor of the regulation of the ammonia to then bring your pH levels up, to lower the acidity in your blood. Even though the A blood type is working against you as far as cardiovascular, the positive is giving you a little bit of a room to maybe give you a leg up. But again, that's all relative to lifestyle and belief system. So remember, I had my day a few years ago and it was bad, and I'm O positive. I didn't turn purple, but it was bad. Just something to be aware of. We are in the world of blood type O. This is a blood type O world. Okay. The poles have totally switched. The A's and B's must find ways to keep up, and the older type O's, you need to chill the hell out. So if you want to prolong your life. And in a lower frequency environment, blood type A and B were king of the hill. Even the RH negs, because the amount of energy they held. That's why I couldn't compete in my family. I was O positive. Everyone around me was either A or B or even negative. So they were just like so smart. Here I am like trying to keep up with everyone around me. And that's why my mother put me in a separate school than my sister, because my sister was probably an RH negative, probably even A or B. I couldn't tell if she was a negative. I think she was probably a negative. She probably was a negative. And so, yeah, so we were in separate schools for a few years before then we went to middle school and then junior high. And then we were in the same school, but she didn't want me to compete against my sister because I was going to be at a deficit given that I was O blood type. And they were all fast moving A's and RH negatives. And that's the crazy thing. And so the older blood type O's need to chill the hell out if you want to prolong your life. In a low frequency environment, blood type A and B were king of the hill, even the RH negatives. In a high frequency environment, they're having a hard time. Now, if the RH negatives don't control their movements, they will spin themselves out of existence. And it's only a matter of time for the A's and B's and ABs unless they change the way they do things. And I'm telling you, it's the infection that you're going to have to develop and even eat food and release like what I have in my book, because you have to pull out that programming. And I don't know how long that's going to take. I know for me, it took me 7 years for an O, but for an A or B, that benchmark of that person who was A positive, who had a major infection to turn O positive, and she turned purple. That means that there was lack of oxygen getting into her blood because of so much of the antibodies and the body just, not getting enough oxygen. Because when you think about it, when I'm around my husband, my head fills up. It means I'm developing mucus. When I develop mucus, that means it's clogging up different places, or it's gathering places where I can feel the difference. So imagine that's the thing with the whole blood transfusion. When you have the incompatible blood types, how much of the antibodies develop in response, in exposure. Okay? And so when you're turning purple, that means you have a lot of antibodies. And that's when I was getting those rashes from the sulfa back when I took the sulfa for a UTI back when I was like 18 or 19. And they had me in the hospital because they had to thin out my white blood cells. So it giving me the salt infusions to go and then disperse them so they're not so numerous to clog up and give me a heart attack or a stroke. Okay, so that's why you must know your blood type. And that's why you're getting the child prodigies, maturing faster, realizing their potential sooner. Their blood type is what's giving them the excessive amount of energy to make the connections faster. But if they're skinny in this environment and they already have predisposed issues, yeah, they might be smart today, but they could be gone tomorrow. So then you have to really know your kid's blood type so you can regulate the exposure and figure out how you're going to balance all the food, the rest, the release, all that stuff. And trying to keep up with your peers who might be O's positives and O negatives, and they're A right now, A's and B's out there, they're not going to be able to keep up when you think about it on a long-term level. They might be able to on a short-term level, but even then that has to be managed. And I don't know how people do that, but we'll see what happens. But will they survive in the long run? That's why the system must utilize their resources earlier and earlier before they die off. And maybe some parts of the country are in a slower frequency to give them out longevity if they were programmed to do something specific. And I couldn't prove it because remember, frequency, like, oh, that's a conspiracy theory. Okay. And so right now, climate change is like taking J juice on specific blood types. It will be a catalyst to evolution for the blood type O's, which is why you have the lady across from me who's probably a blood type O, but I couldn't prove it. When I was in Dr. Phil, both those ladies were bigger ladies. Okay. And then there was me and Bridget, and I wish I knew her name. I have her face. I forget her name. But anyways, I mean, we were blood type O. I don't know what I couldn't tell, but I was blood type O, but they could have been blood type O across from me, and they were feeling it. I think the lady across next to me was probably, I think both ladies were either A or O, but the ladies across from me were feeling it. They were feeling the energy. Okay. And so, so climate change is like a catalyst. It will be a catalyst to evolution, waking up the beast inside, and it'll be on the prowl and on the move, and your body will try to flush it out. Or climate change could be a cure to someone, which is why you get people who don't feel anything or have too many harsh symptoms. So people are like, I don't understand, it's not COVID, it's just a flu. Those are probably the O negatives that are saying this, okay? And a lot of them are right wing because remember, we have a lot of people who are really strong in the right wing world because they're working their asses off, working, and they don't understand what people who have like me who are like, holy shit, and they don't get the blood types have everything to do with the stamina and the ability to assimilate to a really aggressive environment, even back then, before climate change. Okay? And so, either way, regardless, both parties must eat, release demons, stay home, stay safe when necessary, and only they can determine that. Now you understand why the world came down on me so hard back in 2017 and 2018, because I activated people's immune systems that had the demons relatively under control. And then I just was like, what do you call it? A bull in a china shop. I was just breaking everything, breaking the rules, breaking this, breaking that. Oh my God. And so I woke up the demons and people, and they were not prepared, and they were saving it up for the pandemic when you think about it. Because how do you prepare for something such as this that's going on right now? The J world was the preparation. It was the balancing force. It was something that the system actually needed. And it had to be guided very carefully. Okay? And so, yeah, if we didn't have the J world, people would not be prepared for what we're dealing with now. But now that people are seeing what's going on, and they're not even doing the J juice because they've been so radicalized against it. How do you explain your friends and family dropping like flies? And you can blame whatever the hell you want. But no matter what, you already accepted death even before the J world. So how do you explain people dying? Oh, because of the blood types, the frequencies, and predisposed issues, and even reproducing excessively on genetic lines that had weaker bloodlines and predisposed issues and lifestyle and belief system. Okay? So we prepared, the J world prepared the world for COVID-19, and we didn't even fucking know it. All right? So So I woke up the demons in people and they were not prepared and they were saving it up for the pandemic. Who's they? I don't know, the system. Salt and energy could be a catalyst or a cure relative to your predisposed issues, which is why those were blood type Bs and negatives and A and negatives, and they're out there like, holy shit, like Ricochet Rabbit and the Energizer Bunny. Remember, being cured is deadly. You gotta have some kind of movement and evolution and weight to you. And that's the gift that is temporary for those who are AB negatives and even O negatives. But AB negatives have to really be careful because if they already came in deficient, they already have lack of protection because of their blood type. O negatives have a little bit more of an insurance policy because they're O. But it's the A and B negatives you got to watch out for. And the AB positive, well, they're probably going to feel stuff. And the A's positive, B positives, they'll feel stuff because of their RH factor, the plus side of it. As I'm sure some of you are feeling drained, like you said, around certain people or people. And so salt and energy could be a catalyst or a cure. Salting in, which I researched a few years ago, is keeping things together. That's called negentropy. Okay, that's the electrolytes in your body that keep things together. But then when you have more of the electrolytes to break things apart because it's an enemy, that's why the system activates the electrolytes to then go and cordon off some of the antigen and then also release the demons. So that's why people have explosive diarrhea, and they're not even doing JJs, but they have diarrhea because the body is trying to get rid of the antigen that's working against them. That's why you can't stop your body from releasing, or you're trapping those beasts inside. So salting in keeps things together like eating food that is salty. Salting out is when you're cured and deteriorating on the inside because there is no evolution. You don't die on contact from too much salt because you're always drinking water. It's the cumulative effect of trapping demons within. And when they do get out, they double and triple their efforts to do what they do. Not everybody survives the onslaught, which is why I don't recommend cures of any sort, even in the pharmaceutical herbal world. But again, that's not my call because when the demon does wake up, it is formidable and it's deadly. And that's what you have to realize. As far as blood type O, Rh negative, no matter what, O negatives need to also get sick, but it will take a higher frequency for them to do so, which is why when the seasons change, like around my husband, and it's September and it's the spring, maybe even the winter, is when he'll get those reactions where it's like he has to be down for like a week. Me, every single time he comes home and there's a different frequency, or I go out there and I'm feeling my head fill up, yeah, I feel stuff just as like that. But because I'm an O positive, him is an Rh negative, O negative, he's able to go through that really quickly. It's like being cured in his world. Okay? And so, which is why cold and flu season is when they get sick, right? And that's pretty much it, or when the climate changes aggressively. And even if they do get sick, how are they releasing the demons and exchanging the programming? Remember, O's have much more to them. It's the optimal blood type because you can exchange back and forth. You can evolve. You have the reserves. You have the insurance. But it's those who are really skinny and A's and B's that don't have insurance. What do you mean I don't have insurance? Because they don't have enough substance to be able to exchange the programming. Like Vicky said one time, the skinny people, and maybe the A's and B's, that take one large massive shit, they might pass away because that's what's keeping them alive. So if they really wanted to prolong their life, they would have to bring on the substance and go through the infection and all that in order for them to then finally change their biochemistry. And again, the system is like, well, we're not advocating someone torture themselves through major infection unless it happens just spontaneously that no one can control, but they don't recommend people suffer. You know, that's why they said there's a lifespan longevity, because they don't believe anyone should suffer. But again, that's for people to determine themselves and their doctors and their friends and family, because you have to have a very well organized infrastructure to support suffering and survive it. And again, I couldn't make that decision for anyone. And so I will always get stronger from my environment as well as from my husband. What will make my husband stronger? The environment and staying away from drugs and alcohol for the most part, if possible. And of course, food, rest, and release. But the Rh negative is what's causing them to try to slow down their immune system using liquor or drugs, or because they're high wattage, high amperage. And again, that light flickering when he sneezed was like seeing it was almost like being in a Marvel comic where someone's just throwing out energy and it's causing an effect, a wave of energy that would actually influence a light bulb flickering. That was freaking insane. It was like magic. It was like literally like magic. It was like being in a Cinderella and the fairy godmother's like bibbity bobbity boo, and here, I'm like, holy shit, that was crazy. Okay. And so he is a walking transformer. He's my little Power Ranger. He's my little Superman. And so blood type A's and B's must be very careful, especially if they have Rh negative factors. 3 strikes or 2 strikes. Why 3 strikes? Because AB negatives don't have antibodies at all. Only the antigen working against them, and the negative energy is causing high amperage. They're spending themselves out of existence, and they're surrounding themselves by people who are spending them out of existence. It's like not having an immune system. It's like having a very weak immune system, which is why they need the vaccines more than anyone else. But again, talk to your doctor on that one. And the 2 strikes is when you're A positive or A negative, B positive or B negative. That's 2 strikes. And then 1 strike is O positive or O negative, because there's always somebody working against you. But A's and B's and positive negatives, there's always 2 things working against you. Your own blood type and then that positive negative, because somebody's working against you or you're working against yourself. Okay, so the world is highly energetic for A's and B's, even though their Rh factors might give them that energetic defense system or ability to evolve. Because why is that ability? They have the ability to evolve because some of them have the positive part of it, like Tanya potentially, like Janet potentially, because they said they're both A positives. So that positive energy is giving them some leg up, okay? But if they were Rh negative, that's a lot to deal with. And so, but the A's is them working against themselves, so they have to really figure out how not to work against themselves, and that could potentially mean changing the way you do things and eating a bunch of food. And when you're looking at even the blood group diets, and they're saying, oh, the O should not be eating the meat and the milk, and I'm like, you know what? The meat and the milk saved my ass last summer, and this whole, yeah, the milk is what saved my ass, and the meat too. But the milk and the dairy is what they're saying. Oh, the O's need to stay away from that. Bull fucking shit. The milk is what saved my ass. The milk is what's going to save the ass of the A's and the B's. All the freaking diets are horrible. They are starvation. And so when someone said on my Facebook, oh, my dad, swears by the blood type diet. Yeah, well, you already believe you should die anyway, so I don't want to hear it. I'm not saying that to her specifically. But her dad probably wants to die anyways at some point. I mean, not today. He doesn't want to feel anything. But the nutrition that's in the milk and the meat and the cheese and the eggs is what's going to give every blood type something to work with, so they can convert themselves into existence, not out of existence. All the diets convert everyone out of existence. And so, so ability to evolve, it's the blood type that you need to be aware of. A, B, or A or B, it was an A, B, an A and B world. Now it is an O world. The Rh factors will regulate the O's. Blood type A and B, you have to eat so much, release so much, and yeah, infection is going to happen. It's inevitable. And you can't be cured in this environment because you don't have the antibodies. So your body's going to work double time, triple time to work things out, releasing those demons. Okay? So that's why you must eat. The environment will cure you. That's the thing about this. And especially if you're A and B negative or AB negative, the environment will cure you, and people don't survive being cured. That's thermodynamics. That's why cures are deadly. And so when you equate the environment as far as climate change to the J juice and even the high white salt J juice, and we were getting constipated, imagine what's going on with that guy that is in a terminal cancer, and he's dealing with constipation. That means his body is curing the poop in his body, causing the terminal cancer. The last few days, I had a lot of constipation. I really had to work that stuff out, and the poop was like so hard. It was so hard, as it was trying to be like a plug to plug up whatever was up there. And so, yeah, when you're in a high frequency environment, it's the constipation that's going to get people. That's why you have to work that shit out and eat a bunch of food to give your body the carrier force in as far as nutrition and the carrier force out. And you can't be cured in this environment, or you'll end up getting terminal cancer because you don't have the antibodies. And so you're trapping all these little beasts inside of you that don't have any countering force. That's what antibodies do. They go and bind and then take away, but when to the antigen, but when you don't have the antibodies and you're trapping the demons within, and they become bigger, they become the mycoplasma. Okay? And so you can't be cured in this environment because you don't have the antibodies. So your body's going to work double, triple time trying to work things out, releasing the demons. That's why you must eat. The environment will cure you. That's a false sense of security. You have to eat and release so much. Just like when I have no protection against my husband, Rh negative factor, I have to eat enough to make up for what he's taken from me and what he could be trapping in me. What do you mean by what he could? Because the energy is so aggressive that is causing constipation. And then release those demons, because whatever variance he picks up out there, it's amplified. And it's a major evolution for me. And I'm so glad I'm O positive because I get that allowance. Now you know why the blood type A and B probably have circulatory issues and heart conditions, because they are around people, places, and things that are influencing their immune system, causing the body to want to push stuff out, thus raising blood pressure and heart palpitations. I feel it, but I'm strong enough for it. That was the whole thing yesterday when I felt the heart palpitations, and I had to lay down and then eat before that I laid down. And then I woke up and had to release those demons. Okay, and so sometimes the last few weeks I had to take a few showers in the same day, and I could smell the ammonia coming out of my body. When you have ammonia trapped in your body, if you smell it on somebody, it means they're trapping it in, and they could have kidney issues, liver issues, and even circulatory issues, high acid. And so that's probably the connection with the Rh positives, that they're high acid, so that positive is the regulation of the ammonia. Well, the ammonia is a regulation of the acids and the energy metabolism, so that way you're not so acidic. That's what the evolution is. When you are Rh negative, you don't have that, so you tend to be more acidic than not. And that's when you really have to release those demons so you don't become so acidic. And that's why they're saying in the diets for the O's, they're not even mentioning the Rh factors. They're like, oh, they need to stay away from acidic stuff. But they're not even mentioning the factor of the Rh. The Rh positive regulates the acid through the ammonia. The Rh negatives will build up the acid, but it's the O's that do take on a lot of the proteins that have high acids, but the Rh positive is the regulation of it. Okay? And so now you know. So now you know why the blood type A and B probably have circulatory issues and heart conditions, because they're around people, places, and things that are influencing their immune system, causing the body to want to push out stuff, thus raising blood pressure and heart palpitations. I feel it, but I'm strong enough for it. Here's one finding that has continued to surface over the years. One finding that has continued to surface over the years. People with non-O blood type, that's A and B or AB, are at higher risk of developing cardiovascular diseases. Okay? Because you're taking on antigen that's raising the acid levels, everything else, right? And antibodies' function in the immune system is to specifically bind and eliminate foreign particles. So if you're A and B and you're not eliminating foreign particles, how much are you retaining in your body? That's the thing. So an antibody's function in the immune system is to specifically bind and eliminate foreign particles. Antibodies may remove foreign antigens through several mechanisms. Neutralization, antibody binding serves to neutralize foreign particles, preventing interaction with cells and consequently cellular damage and invasion. Okay? A and B blood types are prone to major infections, cancer and diagnosable conditions, heart issues. Blood type O's, it's digestive issues that we have issues with. The Rh positive factor regulates those stomach acids, Rh negatives don't. And so ammonia and gastric acid section is how it regulates the acid, is the ammonia. That's the Rh factor. That's why the O positive is what's going to be the future. And then those that want to be O positive, they're going to have to go through hell to do that, if they can even do it. Or they're in areas where they're not around too many people being exposed. How is that going to happen? How are you going to be able how do you can't live in a bubble. You have to be able to take on your environment without dying from it. And in this environment, how are you going to do that? I don't know. And so we O's carry the weight of the world, and we have to release those demons, and they could be deadly. That's why I release demons daily. I will not let them accumulate and then turn it against me later. And so January 12th, 2023, we've already mentioned the tendency of type O towards higher levels of stomach acid because of the Rh negative. There's also another unique characteristic of type O. So that's why that's why I smelled a lot of ammonia coming out of me, because of the environment. I'm taking on antigen. My husband amplifies stuff. I go out there taking on the antigen. There's the antibodies, and then the acids, and then I have the ammonia. That is what is regulating and keeping the acids low. That's why you want to smell the ammonia coming out of you. If you're type O. If you don't, then you're collecting the acids and it's causing destruction. Okay, so I remember even a couple nights ago, I woke up with a little bit of acid reflux. I'm like, oh my God, this reminds me of all that Jello that I took a couple weeks ago, or a couple months ago. And then it disappeared. Though I did go and eat a few things of cabbage, because I'm like, okay, if I had that small little heartburn, then I'm going to just eat some cabbage. And I did, and nothing was different. Not like it was back in August when I went to that party, but yeah. And so in a slower frequency environment, I could exercise for a blood type O, but environment is highly energetic. And so some of these sites say that blood type O should exercise, which probably for the Rh negatives, because the blood type of Rh negative would probably regulate some of the acids and release some of the demons. But since I'm Rh positive, I know right now my arms are sore. They're still sore. My arms are really sore. But it's not bad. It's just that the range, and I'm beefier, absolutely. But my weight fluctuates based upon my exposure or taking on substance and going through the process and releasing the demons. And so when I'm releasing the demons, I feel the energy and the heart palpitations. I'm already getting the conditioning from the body going through the processes extremely quickly. So I get a workout from releasing demons and being exposed to aggressive variants. I need the fat. I will not exercise my fat off the body, which you see a lot of people do. They're like out there exercising and they don't have any adipose tissue or give high resistance, high diet suddenly. You need the weight on your body. And so, yeah, the whole AI art that I finally discovered how to use through Bing, oh my God, it's a great opening of developing pictures that are worth 1,000 words. And when you do have a good command of the English language, I'm telling you, developing these artificial intelligence art things, like showing you what I dreamt about when I was a kid, flying through things, riding the waves of energy, and even just giving you a picture of what my husband and I were experiencing, and just showing you, that's through the AI art. And so I wanted to show you guys what the picture of just the energy that I'm riding on the wave of energy is really aggressive. And then the picture of a Vietnamese lady and a middle-aged man sitting across from each other with a light right there descending. That's exactly what that light was. We were at a Red Lobster and that light was flickering. My husband sneezed. And I was just, wow. So he's high wattage, high amperage, high frequency dude. Okay. And so my husband sneezed in the restaurant and the lights flickered above us and it was almost strobe-like. And then finally it calmed down. I almost called the waiter and over to see if they could twist the light back into the socket. I don't know how it would untwist, right? I was thinking it was loose or something. It wasn't loose. He just developed a huge energy wave, just him sneezing. That's some pretty amazing stuff. That's Power Ranger stuff. Okay? So that is confirming that my husband is high wattage, high amperage. And that's why I get immune system activation around him. And I'm fine with that. That's the evolution. That's the strengthening. That's the whole positive and negative. Okay. So my husband's so high energy influencing me, he needs to pull back. So I tell him, relax, honey. I don't go out and do the same thing he does. Let me tell you, I don't do what he does because I don't want to be that thing that causes him to expend more energy than he needs to. So I'm the balancing force. So I stay home, I stay safe. I don't really do drugs or anything like that. And he doesn't do drugs either, but he does, and he drinks occasionally. But I'll tell you, I have to be that balancing force, because if there's two of us that were the same, we would expend each other out of existence. And I don't have the energy to expend like he does. That's why some women out there will not survive. And even some men will not survive their partners because they don't realize they're coming in at a deficit. They're coming in at a deficit and one's going to cannibalize the other. So now you understand how balancing forces why they're necessary. And so, yep, when you are living with somebody, you'll have to deal with the fertility, and it is formidable. Okay? So it's all relative to the variants, the new global babies that are bouncing around the community. And since we have a new JN1 variant, that's a new global baby that everyone has to deal with. It's amplified, and that's what I had to deal with the last month. It was pretty crazy. And so fertility means that the microbes you're mixing together, developing offspring called mucus, immune system activation. And at least I know how to release my demons. I'm glad I'm the positive, not the negative. And so that heartbeat and fast and everything, that was my system going through the process of pushing everything that is foreign and offspring through the immune system and filtration system. The energy released from that is what the system is capitalizing on. So when you see people out there like plunking away and developing super PACs and activism and businesses and companies and all this other stuff, you're now seeing downloads of people. They're downloading all of the energy, and that's how they're funneling their belief systems, their lifestyles, everything is through what they're saying, what they're doing, and it's at an accelerated rate. Okay? And so the energy released from that is what the system is capitalizing on. You have to survive the uploads and the downloads. And those uploads and downloads are very aggressive. The uploads are not as bad because, you might feel your head filling up when you go into a crowded room, and you'll buy, like when I went to the restaurant, I felt my head filling up, and I almost felt like I was talking far away, like I was in an echo chamber, because it was like having a cacophony of sound absorbers that were causing me to not hear. I hear things, but it was just like I hear sounds, but it's the voice, because I was filling up. My vocal cords were not projecting, so I had to really speak louder. It was interesting. So anyways, you might survive the uploads, yes, and the adrenaline keeps everything pretty much okay, but it's when you go home and you finally relax and you're not under adrenaline and you're not in that kind of like fight or flight, when you think about it, then that's when you get the immune system activation, and then everything gets released and you're coughing, sneezing. And that's why those who go and travel, like in planes and trains and automobiles, planes and trains, and they go travel to other places, then they get sick when they get to the destination, or when they come home they get sick because they're on adrenaline from traveling. The body's in now adaptation, fight or flight mode, and that's why people get sick when they come home. And some people can handle it, some people can't. That's what I'm saying. Right now I wouldn't travel anyways. But the uploads are not as bad, but you'll feel your head filling up, and if you have a strong immune system, it will hold the line until you get home. And then the downloads. Oh, wow. Downloads could be knowledge, it could be hate, it could be love, and so much poop. It's like you're giving birth to yourself, releasing that old world, that old situation, and that's accelerated extreme evolution. And people are not surviving these downloads and uploads. You are like a computer, and all of your training and knowledge and upbringing are being downloaded as we speak. And the system is uploading all the information into the world, into anyone who's willing to take the bait, and some people are not. And some people are having information overload, and they are glitching. They can't handle it. That they get heart attacks and strokes. It's too much at once. That's why these kids are dying suddenly on the field. Why there's heart attacks and strokes. Or are people getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, or aging faster, or smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, and aging, and then are emaciated. And that's why you stay home and stay safe when you finally realize you may not be equipped to be out there gallivanting. I love that word, gallivanting. It's pejorative, yes, because it says that you're just out there doing whatever and with no real rhyme or reason, and you're just, like dancing, right? But some people don't even know they're not equipped to deal with it until they die suddenly. By that time, it's too late. I'm not worried about my husband because he makes his own choices and he feels pretty strong. He's an O negative. I'm glad I'm the positive in the family because I can take a lot, okay? I can take a lot of uploads and downloads. And I have been. I set up my life to deal with it. So I was thinking yesterday after that whole episode of me feeling the heart palpitations, eating, sleeping, and releasing those demons, that was the quickest evolution I've ever experienced, because I woke, after I did all that, release the demons, and I was like, okay, I took a shower and all that. After that, I'm like, I feel like a new woman. I feel like I can go and just conquer the world. All right, let's go to Red Lobster, honey. Let's go over there and eat whatever. And it was great. It was fucking great. And I didn't have any residual feeling of fatigue after that whole episode. It was really awesome. That was a 24-hour turnaround since my husband came home. And I had to take a very quick nap when my heart was beating. but I was also eating a bunch of food before I went to sleep, and the body needed those resources, and then I had to wake up and do what I had to do. And some people will have that happen, but there'll still be residual they have to deal with as far as the fatigue and whatever else, and they have to rest after that episode. And so it's going to take a while for you to be able to go through a quick evolution and bounce back from it and not have it work against you. And I earned that quick evolution. And it was, I'll tell you, I won't say it was painful, but it was a lot of energy to release. But the heart beating was what's crazy. You know, I'm watching whatever's on TV, and I'm like, oh my God, my heart's beating so quickly, so fast. Like you'd say, like a tachycardia, that people who are weak would probably feel that because of energy conversion and what they're holding inside. And people don't survive those tachycardia type episodes. I can, but I know how to feed it. I eat food. That's my blood type. And that's even what I've conditioned myself for, is to eat every single time I feel. Like I was eating meatloaf, but here, this is like my quiche that I made the last few days. So I eat a bunch when I'm going through those episodes, because I know the body has to take on the resources and release the demons, because there's something foreign antigen inside that's really amplified that I have to develop antibodies for and everything. And so the hives were the indicators for me. A few hives, which proves that opposites develop offspring, also known as antibodies. In a lower frequency environment, potential actual fertility or sexual reproduction. But in a high frequency environment, die suddenly if you don't release the demons. I know what I'm in for who knows how long. I'll just keep riding the wave, becoming stronger. Okay? And that's when I said that my heart was beating faster. I'm hearing sirens too at the same time. And then Mark Zuckerberg, he is an O positive. So now I understand why they needed the islands and why Mark Zuckerberg is building his own little bomb shelter. He is staying out of the microbial wars. Well played, Mark. And he is O positive. And he has 3 children. I don't know what Priscilla Chan's blood type is, but Mark Zuckerberg is O positive. So then, when the system sexualized everything back in the 1960s, they developed the programming of opposites attract, because opposites do attract. But remember, when you are sexualized and come from less and even family, it is opposite attract, and you bring in cannabis and anything else, it'll make things even worse. And remember, what brings you together will also drive you apart if you don't understand how to manage that situation. And while children take so much from you and you don't notice it in a slower frequency environment, the opposite attract notion today is what's weaponized against you. So even though you have kids that might be opposite of you, and that's all relative to blood type and RH factor, they could bring you together, but they also could drive you apart. Okay? I understand why they don't do blood tests anymore for people who want to get married. We went to Lake Tahoe and got married. We never had to get a blood test. We didn't even have to do any kind of marriage. I mean, we did a marriage license, which was, no, it was just, did we do a marriage license? I don't remember if we submitted it. I guess we did. I don't know. But we have a marriage, like we had everything signed up, and then that was our marriage license, and we just showed that we're married, but I don't remember exactly how that all worked out. But yeah, I think I did with the social security number too. Well, anyways, and so I understand now why they don't do blood tests anymore for people who want to get married, because then they don't want to have people who are in optimal conditions to have 1 billion children. See, the reason why they gave the blood tests before marriage is to see if you could have kids. If you couldn't have kids, then what's the point? Because back in the 1950s, it's all about having 1 billion children, right? Boomers. 1940s, 50s, boomers. And so all of you are weaponized against each other now. That was the 1960s. They pulled out all the stops. Strategic. I got to hand it to the system. Wow, well played. Yeah. And so, by the way, Trump is so negative. He is a powerful person, so he can handle the environment. So when you're around him, when you look at him, he's a giant dude, man. And I've heard people talk about when they met him, and they're right next to him, and they can't touch him, of course, because there's all these social, Secret Service. They're telling you how to deal with him, because somebody on YouTube that my husband listens to, who's a very right-wing guy, who met Trump and was saying that he made sure he squeezed Trump's hand really hard, because you know that Trump does it. He squeezes the hand and he pulls you towards him as if he was establishing dominance. And so, yeah, Trump is a force. He is a force. And he's O negative. Okay? Highly sexual, obviously. and he's a string of women that he's been around, and he has beautiful wives and great offspring and all that. And so he is a force. That's why he is the right-wing candidate for the Republican presidency, because he is a force. So just because he can handle the environment doesn't mean you can. He can't save you if you have a certain blood type. I would be very careful following people that you think will save you. We are in a blood war, and then everything else is war, and then everything else war. But most of all, the war is in your house, in your family, your friends, even everyone you interact with, the public. And that's why I want you guys to watch Gert's concern for the new COVID variant, because he's saying now it doesn't matter if you get a V or not. The train's left the station. No matter what you do, whether you're around people or taking in smaller versions or smaller amounts of what you would be exposed to, it's amplified in this environment. It's not going to make a difference. And so I'm not going to read that. And I said the environment would have a curative effect for those who are high frequency Rh negs. I told you the Rh negs would be relatively immune, but they need to watch out for running their clock down. Okay. And so they said that in 2020 study, over 14,000 people, researchers found that people with Rh negative blood types had a decreased risk of COVID infection and of intubation and death. Yeah. And so you really need to ask in the diet suddenly groups what blood types people are when they're dealing with infection, as well as what blood types were of those who died suddenly. That should tell you everything. People are like, oh, we got to do autopsies. Just find out their blood type first, and then look at their lifestyle and belief system. No matter what, when you're trapping those beasts inside, you have to release them, or they'll accumulate and overtake you. And when you're blood type A and B, you don't have the resources to deal with diverse company. What's the autopsy to tell you? That you didn't have enough protection, you didn't have enough resources, or you're so overridden, nothing the system could do. Okay? And so the blood transfusion compatibilities was the first clue how your friends and family would attack you or protect you. Now you know at the 11th hour, it is still not too late to change, but if change is not optimal, have fun on your way out the door. Everything is hidden in plain sight. The blood wars are the white blood cells people share in diverse company. It's all about last man standing. Now you understand why I say family can be very deadly. Your children could be very deadly to you and themselves. You could be deadly to yourself and your children. I'm not some idiot left-wing person. I saw the writing on the wall a long time ago. I just didn't have the words or the science to say it until today. I couldn't tell you if any change will help you. But anytime you want to interrupt a set outcome like the death process, change is required, but there is no guarantee that change will save you. That's why I couldn't say that people that do what I'm doing. I'll just give you my whole background of O positive, my lifestyle, and what I feel during the lifestyle, and what I feel during the frequencies and the influences, and what I do. And it doesn't mean that you can do it or you have the structure to do it, but that's the background and the lifestyle and the belief system and even the J world to show you. These are all the factors that contribute to me surviving and having a quicker turnaround in evolution, not escaping evolution, but having a quicker turnaround in evolution and surviving it without having to deal with any residual issues. Because when people do get evolution and they don't have the infrastructure, then it's like a stroke. You get a stroke and then your face droops or other things become compromised because they don't have the infrastructure to deal with evolution. I can deal with evolution without long-term damage. And I keep building and releasing and building and releasing. And I'm not a recluse, but you have to understand that that's why I stay home and stay safe than hang out with people, because it's a lot of evolution to deal with. And it's amplified in this environment. Okay? But change is required, but there's no guarantee that change will save you. And so I'm a fucking realist. I've been feeling this for the last 3 years. I'm not a recluse. I'm a realist. I know what's going on. And I know if I'm feeling it, somebody else is getting destroyed by it. Because they don't have the support system. And so antibodies do turn into antigen relative to the perspective. Your protection will be like a weapon to somebody else when it leaves your body. And I said that before. Okay? And so that's why I learned how to put boundaries on people and myself. Because when you entertain so many people who are working against you, you'll die from that exposure and that lifestyle. That's why I put boundaries on myself and other people. My mother did too, because I was a force. Even though she was a force too, I was a force myself. And, I don't need company of a lot of people. I'm not lonely, and I don't have a death wish. And so when I remember a couple years ago, I had in the pinned post about how I was actually demonizing the antibodies because I didn't know any better what they were. I was just looking at the word itself, like taking it literally, but not realizing the perspective of that word antibody. And so I did study monoclonal antibodies. I did study primary antibodies and secondary antibodies, and just thought they were all bad and whatever. And now, from this perspective, I found they characterize antibodies correctly. Because the monoclonal antibodies are the clones of antibodies that those who are missing that protection in their body could get something temporary, but in this environment, it's too late. That's why I said on here I was feeling concerned, because the doctors are saying that no matter how much temporary protection you get from a therapy, whether it's a monoclonal antibody type of thing, an mRNA or something like that, the things are mutating so fast and transmitting so fast that even the medical system cannot get ahead of it. And so now it's either you stay home, stay safe, or you're out there and you're just a ticking time bomb, a die suddenly candidate. And then Pip, I'm fucking proud of Pip. She said, I've decided to make more changes. That's why we sold our chickens. People on my post said I'm giving up, but they don't understand the bigger picture. Taking care of livestock is no joke and sucks away at your life force. I have the cats and realize what comes with that. 2024 is going to be brutal, so I'm making whatever changes I can to simplify my life so I can put myself first. Absolutely. Smart freaking girl. Smart girl. And so I tell you, that's what's going to take, is making actual behavioral changes. Simply just buying into a belief system is maybe, like, knowing is half the battle, but it's the behavioral changes is what's going to determine potentially a different outcome. Not guaranteed, because I couldn't tell you how much change you'd have to make, how little or how much, and it's so many factors to go along with it, but any kind of change could potentially make a difference in the space-time continuum or the outcome. But again, how much or how little, I couldn't tell you what you'd have to do. But I know what I have to do, and that's why I'm giving you a lot of the information about my life, so you can then juxtaposition your life and figure out, okay, Jillian's a blood type O, her husband's an O negative, and she's an O positive, and she stays home pretty much most of the time. He works, she feels stuff, she pulls out her crap, she eats food, she feels a high, she's had major sickness but never had to go to the hospital. She's not afraid of food, she doesn't politicize food, she does no drugs, no alcohol, she doesn't do crazy amounts of sex, she puts even a kibosh on too much of that. And then you figure out what you're doing in your world and see what's working against you, and you will make your changes. But I will be that benchmark of where you go above or below, and you'll figure out what you got to do. All right, bye.